Yuji Ide. His Formula One career didn't end in disappointment. It got cut off by the FIA itself. In 2006, Ide debuted for Super Aguri at the age of 31, far older than most rookies. Right away, there were warning signs. He struggled with communication, lacked pace, and often looked completely lost on track. But things reached a boiling point at the San Marino Grand Prix when Ide caused a high-speed crash by sending Cristijan Albers flipping into the gravel at over 150 miles per hour. The FIA had seen enough. They advised Super Aguri to replace him immediately. Just 4 races into his career, Ide was stripped of his FIA Super license. That decision effectively banned him from racing at the highest level ever again. No hearing, no appeal, just gone. While other drivers were suspended for cheating, drugs or politics, Ide became the only driver in F1 history to be banned purely for incompetence. After that, he returned to Japan and had a solid career in Super GT and Formula Nippon. Bertrand Gachot. In 1991, Gachot was racing for Jordan and having the best season of his life. Then, out of nowhere, everything collapsed. Months earlier in London, he had sprayed a taxi driver with CS gas during a road rage incident. He thought it was over, until the legal system caught up. That summer, just days before the Belgian Grand Prix, he was sentenced to 18 months in prison for assault and carrying a prohibited weapon. Jordan needed a replacement fast, so they handed the seat to a relatively unknown German kid named Michael Schumacher. And the rest is F1 history. Schumacher stunned everyone in his debut, immediately signed by Benetton, and went on to win 7 world titles. Gachot, meanwhile, was stuck behind bars watching his career slip away. By the time he got out of prison, the momentum was gone. He bounced around smaller teams like Larousse and Pacific, but never found his form again. His F1 career had been derailed not by a crash or a contract, but by one impulsive act on a public road. His downfall became one of the most ironic moments in F1 history. Taki Inoue. In 1995, he signed with Footwork and instantly became a punchline in the paddock. He spun out in practice, collided with safety cars, and got involved in bizarre accidents that defied belief. During the Monaco Grand Prix, his car stalled, and as marshals tried to push him off track, a course car rammed him from behind. 2 months later at Hungary, he stopped again, got out to grab a fire extinguisher, and was run over by the medical car. No joke, that actually happened. He wasn't banned officially. The FIA never had to intervene, but his performance alone was enough to bury his career. He finished almost every race multiple laps down, caused unnecessary incidents, and never scored a single point. By the end of 1995, teams had seen enough. He was dropped and never raced in F1 again. Afterward, he embraced the chaos. He leaned into the meme, joking about his legacy and becoming a fan favourite online for his self-deprecating humour. Romain Grosjean. He was fast, aggressive, and completely unpredictable at the start of every race. But things finally boiled over at the Belgian Grand Prix. Going into Turn 1, Grosjean squeezed Lewis Hamilton, triggering a multi-car pile-up that launched Alonso's car airborne. It was one of the most dangerous opening lap incidents F1 had seen in years. The stewards didn't hesitate. He was handed a 1-race ban, the first Formula One driving suspension since 1994. The punishment was a massive blow. He missed the Italian Grand Prix and faced heavy criticism from across the paddock. Drivers called him reckless. Fans labelled him a liability. Lotus considered dropping him, and the media openly questioned whether he had what it took to race at the top level. But Grosjean didn't fold. He returned with a cleaner driving style, stayed with Lotus until 2015, and later joined Haas, helping build the new team from scratch. Then, in 2020, everything came full circle. At the Bahrain Grand Prix, he survived a horrific fireball crash that ripped his car in half. That image rewrote his legacy. He went from the guy banned for recklessness to the survivor who fought his way back and walked out of the fire when it mattered most. Now, before we get into the next driver, please help us beat the algorithm by hitting that like button and subscribing. Now, moving on. Nikita Mazepin. When Nikita joined Haas in 2021, he wasn't welcomed with open arms. His entry into F1 came with controversy before he even hit the track. A viral video of him groping a woman surfaced just weeks after his signing. Haas issued statements but kept him on. Fans didn't forget. On the grid, he struggled from the start. Constant spins, poor pace, and an inability to match teammate Mick Schumacher made him the consistent backmarker of the season. But his F1 career didn't end with performance. It ended with politics. In 2022, Russia's invasion of Ukraine shook global sports. The FIA responded with neutrality rules: no Russian flags, no national symbols, and no team representation under Russia. Haas, already under scrutiny for its Russian title sponsor, Uralkali, owned by Mazepin's father, acted fast. They dropped the sponsor and cut Mazepin from the team days before the new season. Technically, the FIA didn't ban him. They gave Russians the option to race under a neutral banner. But Haas didn't want the baggage. And just like that, Mazepin was out of Formula One. Jean-Pierre Beltoise. In 1971, Beltoise made a decision that cost a man his life and nearly ended his own Formula One career. During a non-championship race at Buenos Aires, torrential rain turned the track into chaos. Visibility was near zero, and most drivers backed off. Beltoise didn't. He barreled down the straight, lost control, and slammed into Ignazio Giunti's Ferrari, which had slowed to avoid a stalled car being pushed by marshals. The collision triggered a massive fireball. Giunti was trapped and killed instantly. The tragedy sent shockwaves through motorsport. The Argentine race organisers took heat, but so did Beltoise. The French motorsport authorities reviewed the footage and deemed his actions reckless. As a result, he was banned from racing in France for the entire 1971 season, an unprecedented punishment at the time. Beltoise returned the next year and responded the only way he could, by winning. In 1972, he took a historic victory at the Monaco Grand Prix, dominating in the wet, the very conditions that had destroyed him a year earlier. He never won again, but that single triumph secured his place in F1 history. His case remains one of the few where a driver faced real consequences for a fatal on-track mistake, and then somehow found a way to race again. Andrea De Cesaris. He didn't get banned by the FIA, he got banned by the paddock. Between 1980 and 1994, he drove for 10 different teams across 208 Grand Prix, not because he was in demand, but because no one could trust him for long. De Cesaris developed a brutal reputation for wrecking cars and ignoring team instructions. By the time his career was halfway through, mechanics nicknamed him De Crasheris, and it stuck. In his debut season with Alfa Romeo, he crashed 19 times in 22 races across different categories. Later, at McLaren in 1981, he tore through so much equipment that Ron Dennis dropped him after one season. The pattern never changed. Fast, fearless, and wildly inconsistent, Andrea could look brilliant one lap and then toss it all away the next. By the early 90s, no competitive team would sign him. Sponsors dried up. His raw pace was undeniable. He even led races and scored podiums. But he simply couldn't be trusted to bring the car home. No official suspension, no hearing, no paperwork. Just a silent consensus that he didn't belong in modern F1 anymore. He retired in 1994 with the record for most starts without a win. Not banned by rule, banned by reputation. Hans Heyer. He holds one of the weirdest records in Formula One history. He's the only driver to be banned for racing in a Grand Prix he never qualified for. You see, in 1977, at the German Grand Prix, Heyer entered with the struggling ATS team. He failed to qualify. That should have been the end of his weekend. But when the race began, Hire didn't care. He lined up behind the grid in the pit lane, joined the track mid-pack, and just started racing like it was normal. For 10 laps, nobody noticed. Then his car suffered a mechanical failure. Only when he pulled into the pits did officials realise he had been racing illegally the entire time. The FIA wasn't amused. They disqualified him posthumously and issued a lifetime ban from Formula One, not for driving dangerously, not for crashing, but for simply ignoring the rules and inserting himself into a Grand Prix. He never drove in Formula One again. To this day, he's listed in the record books as having started a race he wasn't allowed to be in. Eliseo Salazar. At the 1982 German Grand Prix, Salazar was running mid-pack when he collided with Nelson Piquet, who was leading the race in his Brabham. He misjudged the braking zone at the chicane and slammed into Piquet, taking them both out on the spot. What happened next became one of the most infamous scenes in F1 history. Piquet jumped out of his wrecked car, stormed over to Salazar, and unleashed a flurry of punches and kicks right there on the grass. Cameras caught the whole thing. Marshals pulled them apart. The FIA didn't take long to investigate the incident. He wasn't officially banned, but reports at the time said the FIA strongly considered a temporary suspension due to reckless driving. He avoided the penalty, but the damage was done. His reputation took a major hit, and he struggled to get another serious F1 opportunity afterward. Teams quietly moved on. So, which ban surprised you the most? Was it Yuji Ide getting pulled mid-season? Hans Hire gate-crashing a Grand Prix? Or Gasho's road rage opening the door for Schumacher? Share your thoughts in the comments section below as you leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.